Okay, welcome everyone. We're about to learn Tractate Shabbos, chapter 2. The name of the chapter is Bameh Madlikin. And we'll start from the third line, from the top, Rava Amar. So the Gemara returns to its original question. What is the dispute regarding the suitability of the wick described in the Mishnah for the Shabbos lamp? What's suitable for Shabbos lamp? What makes it suitable? So, Rav Amar Ainu Taimud Rabbi Lezer. This is Rabbi Lezer's reason. Because one may not light with wick that is not, obviously, not light the Shabbos lamp with a wick that is not charred. Nor with rags that are not charred. Since they do not light properly, shouldn't use them. The whole idea of Shabbos candles to bring peace to the home, and if the candles don't look good and they're not emitting proper light, then it's like missing the point. Therefore, you should have to use the charred one. Since they do not light properly, accordingly, the unsinged wick discussed in our Mishnah is not suitable for Shabbos lamp and may not be used. Hello, the son of Rabbi Yosef. But then this Baisa that Rabbi Yosef taught, Sholosh Mitzumtzomes, the Mishnah deals with cloth measuring precisely 3 by 3 finger breadth. To which law does it refer? For it is certainly not referring to our Mishnah according to Rava, since our Mishnah is not concerned with the size of the wick. What then is the law to which the Baisa refers to? The 3 by 3, precisely 3 by 3. The Gemara says, Le'inyan Tuma. The Baisa speaks with regard to the minimum measure required for a piece of cloth to be susceptible to Tuma. That now, a piece of cloth, 3 by 3 finger breadth, chutz min hamolot, except is for the cloth chutz min hamolot. What did we say? The 3 by 3 finger breadth cloth is susceptible to tumah, except chutz min hamolot. What is molot? So the Gemara says is the hem, without the hem. So 3 by 3 precisely, but without the hem, the actual measure. However, if the 3 by 3 finger breadth plus the amount needed to sew a hem on all sides, div Rabbi Shimon, these are the words of Rabbi Shimon, all that is needed is measure of precisely 3 by 3 finger breadth. It is 3 by 3 measure for Tuma, susceptibility of cloth that is subject of the Baisa cited by Rabbi Yosef as well. The Baisa follows the opinion of the sages, which rules that 3 by 3 measure stated by the Mishnah is a precise one. Additional cloth for a hem is not required. So the Gemara above cited Rabbi Yehuda's ruling regarding noilod, regarding something that was created on Yom Tov. It now expands upon this ruling with a statement by Rav that enumerates 3 cases in which Rabbi Yehuda takes this position of noilod. Rav begins with a previously discussed case of broken utensils. One may fuel a fire on Yom Tov with whole utensils on Yom Tov, but one may not fuel it with fragments of utensils that broke during Yom Tov because they are nolud. They are something that was born on Yom Tov. Div Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon Matir. So what does it mean it was nolud? We know that commonly people are not going to throw a whole piece of a whole vessel into the fire to use it as fuel for fire, but people might use shivra kelim, fragments of vessels, into the fire. So if you had a broken vessel before Yom Tov, it's not a problem. But if the vessel broke on Yom Tov, so now it was born on Yom Tov. That you might shivra kelim, pieces of broken vessels are used. Usually, if people keep them, they keep them to use them as a wood, firewood. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're not allowed to use those fragments of shivra kelim, those pieces of utensils that broke, but Rabbi Shimon says you're allowed to. Rabbi Shimon permits one to fuel a fire on Yom Tov, even with utensils that broke during Yom Tov, where he holds that noilod is permitted. Masikin b'smorin aval masikin b'garinein. One may fuel a fire with dates on Yom Tov, but if one ate the dates during Yom Tov, you're not allowed to use the pits now for the fire. Again, this is noilod, because you wouldn't throw the dates into the fire, but the pits you will throw into the fire. So since you ate the dates on Yom Tov, so you put the pits aside, and therefore you should not be using them as to fuel the fire. So these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Mati, Rabbi Shimon says you're allowed to fuel the fire with the pits that were eaten on Yom Tov, that the dates were eaten on Yom Tov. Masikin be'egoizim, one may fuel fire with nuts, but on Yom Tov, acholon, but if you ate them, and masikin be'klipoisem, one may not fuel the fire with their shell. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, because again it's noilod, the shell is noilod now. Rabbi Shimon Mati, Rabbi Shimon says you're allowed to use it. It's not considered something that was born. It's not a new thing that was created. So why do we need all these cases?
He said in each of these cases, Rabbi Yehuda allows the fruit to be burned. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the Gemara says, why do we need all the three cases? We spoke about dates. We spoke about nuts. And the first case that we discussed was the shivra kelim, was the parts of vessels, the broken vessels. We need all cases. If he would have informed us of the first case, the case of fragment of a utensil, I would think Rabbi Yehuda forbade to use a fragment of utensil, because initially it was a utensil, and at the beginning of Yom Tov it was utensil, and now it's a shever kli, it's a fragment of a utensil. It is considered noilod and it's forbidden for use. When it comes to date pits, then we call a garin garin, and nothing changed. They didn't change their status. They were pits before and they are pits now. Eima Shapir Domi, I would think that Rabbi Yehuda would agree to it. He would say you're allowed to use it as a fuel for fire. He said no, you're not allowed to fuel a fire with the pits. V'yashminan, even though the designation did not change, it was pits before and it pits now, before eating it and now. So v'yashminan garinin. Now, if you would have only informed us of date pits and not inform us about the fragments of utensil, Avamina, I would have said that in the case of date pits, that Rabbi Yehuda holds that they may not be burnt. Why? Because initially they were covered, concealed, and now they're revealed. The pits of the date are concealed. So therefore, since they were concealed and now revealed, you shouldn't be using them. In the case of the egoism, the nuts, the shell of the nuts, not shells, then we call that they were always revealed. I would have said that it would be okay in the case of not shells. It is therefore necessary to Rav to teach that Rav is teaching that Rabbi Yehuda views that shells of nuts eaten during Yom Tov are also considered noilon, and you should not be using them for the fire, to fuel fire. This ruling of Rav, that pits remaining from dates eaten on Yom Tov are noilod lav efilu sheitma was not said explicitly by Rav, ela miklol eitma, but was rather divided or derived by influence from an incident involving Rav. The Rav ochal tamre v'shodo kashos levuchia. For Rav ate dates on weekday and threw the pits into an oven for fuel. Amar levichia bar pachti, son of nobles, keneg the b'yom tov asu. This action equivalent, the same action to do it on Yom Tov is forbidden because it's considered noilon. Rav Yehuda, knowing of this incident, assumed that Rav acquiesced to the ruling of Rabbi Chia, and therefore stated in Rav's name that one is forbidden to burn the pits remaining from dates eaten on Yom Tov because they are noilon. The Gemara now questions Rav Yehuda's presumption of Rav's acquiescence. Kiblo minei or lo kiblo minei? Did Rav actually accept this ruling from Rabbi Chia or did not accept this ruling from Rabbi Chia? Perhaps Rav does not agree with Rabbi Chia at all, but rather holds that date pits are not considered noilod. So the Gemara attempts to prove that Rav did not accept Rabbi Chia's ruling. Tashma, come and learn. Dechi also Rav lebov, when Rav came to Babylonia. Ochal tamrei, he ate dates on a festival. V'shodo kashos lechivoso, and threw the pits to the animals. My love, the farios, befarsioso v'lei kiblo. Now this incident is presumably occurred with Persian dates, whose fruit does not cling to its pits. Since the pits of such dates are entirely clean of fruit, they are considered to have undergone a complete transformation. For before the dates were consumed, even the pits were regarded as food fit for human beings because of the fruit attached to them. But upon consumption of the dates, the pits are transformed into a non-food item. They are thus considered noilod, and Rabbi Chia would therefore forbid one to handle these pits on Yom Tov. Since Rav fed these pits to animals, he apparently did not accept Rabbi Chia's ruling. The Gemara rejects this proof. The Gemara says Loi Bar Mayosef was actually dealing with Aramean dates, which generally leave some of their fruit clinging to their pits. With regard to such date, even Rabbi Chia will agree that their pits do not become noilod. Oil v'chazi agav imayu, for since they are yet fit for human consumption because of their fruit that clings to them, they are still viewed as food item and are thus not considered to have undergone transformation. There is therefore no proof from Rav's action that he did not accept Rabbi Chia's ruling. Rabbi Yehuda might therefore be correct. In presuming Rav's acquiescence to Rabbi Chia. The Gemara now poses a question concerning Rabbi Yehuda's ruling. Amar le Rabbi Shmuel bar Chan le Rabbi Yosef le Rabbi Yehuda de Omar. According to Rabbi Yehuda, who stated, Masikim b'chelim ve'en masikim b'shivur chelim, one may fuel a fire with utensils on Yom Tov, but one may not fuel a fire with fragments of utensils that broke during Yom Tov. Kevan da'adlik b'puta, as soon as one lights them, the whole utensils a bit, aval l'shivur kelim, they become also fragments of utensils. So you're allowed to use kelim, whole utensils, but you're not allowed to use fragment utensils. So he says, 1 second, when the moment you throw the whole utensils into the fire, they become shivrei kelim, they become broken kelim. And according when one later turns over the burning mass to stoke it, he turns it over illegally. How then can Rabbi Yehuda allow to employ utensils as fuel on Yom Tov? So one is permitted to stoke the burning utensils if he does as Rav Masna suggested in a similar case. Rav Masna said in the name of Rav, if branches fell from a palm tree into an oven on Yom Tov, branches fell from a palm tree to an oven on Yom Tov. One may add unto them other wood that had been prepared for kindling, and he may then burn them and later stoke the fire, notwithstanding the fact that the branches are noiled. Likewise, if one builds a fire with utensils, adds wood unto them, he will be permitted to kindle them even after they become noiled. So the Gemara presents a second explanation of the dispute regarding the weak susceptibility of Tumah. Rav Amnuna Omar. Rav Amnuna said, we are dealing here with a cloth that measures less than 3 by 3 handbreadth. And when the rabbis taught here, and what the rabbis taught here is the law of Tumah susceptibility for rags designated by their owner for an insignificant use. Rabbi Lezer's opinion here follows his reasoning elsewhere, and Rabbi Akiva's opinion here also follows his reasoning elsewhere. But we learned in the Mishnah a less than 3 by 3 handbreadth, a rag that was first designated to be used to plug. They used it as a plug to plug the pipes of a bathhouse, or to pour out the contents of a hot pot, or to wipe and clean a millstone, but was then afterwards stored away for later use. Whether it is from a storage that will cause the rag to be regarded as prepared for use, or whether it is a storage that will cause it to be regarded as unprepared. Tomei, the rag is susceptible to contamination with Tumah, for the act of storing the rag away demonstrate that its owner regards it as a significant. You're putting something away, that means you care for it. The status it lost through its initial designation for an insignificant use is restored. Obviously shows that it is significant to you. That's why you're putting it away. The Divrei Rabbi Lezer, these are the words of Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Yeshua said, whether it is a form of storage that will cause the rag to be regarded as prepared for use, or whether it is storage that will cause the rag to be regarded as an unprepared toher, the rag is toher. It is not susceptible to contamination with Tumah, for the act of storing the rag does not demonstrate the owner's regard for it as significant garment. The negation of its status as a garment is thus confirmed. Rabbi Akiva says differently, that if it is a form of storage that will cause the rag to be regarded as prepared for use, the rag is therefore susceptible to contamination with Tumah, because it's a kli, it's something that can be used. But if it's storage, if it's a type of storage that will cause the rag to be considered unprepared, the rag is torah. Everyone agree. All three Tanoim involved in this dispute agree. If he threw this rag into the trash heap after designating it for one of the insignificant uses mentioned in the aforementioned Mishnah, all agree that it is not susceptible to contamination with Tumah, for by discarding the rag, its owner confirms that he does not regard the rag as significant garment. It is not legally considered a garment regarding susceptibility of Tumah. So Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shua, and Rabbi Akiva will all agree in a case where he throws it out. It's not considered significant, and therefore it's not susceptible to Tumah. So if somebody left the rag in a chest after designating it for an insignificant use, all agree that it is susceptible to contamination with Tumah, for by carefully storing it away, the owner demonstrates that he regards the rag as significant garment despite having designated it for an insignificant use. It thus regains its status as a garment and is susceptible to Tumah. They disagree only in the case where one hung the rag upon a peg, or place it behind the door. Rabbi Eliezer holds that since he did not throw the rag directly into the trash heap, daiti loy, his mind evidently on it, meaning he recognizes its worth. It thus regains its status as a garment and susceptible to Tumah. The Gemara pauses to question Rabbi Elazar's terminology. Why did he describe the rag placed behind the door or hung on a peg, unprepared? The Gemara says the legabe kufsalav muchanu, because since as compared to rag placed in a chest, is not considered prepared for use if you're hanging it on a peg or behind a door. So Rabbi Elazar refers to it as unprepared. Nonetheless, he holds that taken on its own merits, meaning the act of storing a rag behind the door or hanging it upon a peg is a strong enough indication of the owner's regard for the rag. The rag therefore regains its status as a garment and is susceptible to tuma. The Gemara now continues with Rabbi Yeshua's opinion concerning a rag that was hung on a peg or placed behind a door. Rabbi Yeshua holds that since he did not place the rag into a chest for storage, batule batle, he clearly intends to negate its status as a garment. It therefore is not susceptible to tuma. But why did he describe a rag hung on a peg as one that was prepared for use? The gabe ashpa muchanu, because since as compared to a rag thrown into the trash heap, a rag hung upon a peg is considered prepared for use. Rabbi Yeshua refers to it as prepared. Nonetheless, he holds it taken on its own merits. The act of hanging a rag on a peg or placing it behind the door is not an indication that the owner has regarded for its worth. It therefore not considered a garment, and it's not susceptible to tuma. Rabbi Akiva, in the case of one hangs the rag on a peg, holds like Rabbi Elazar that this act indicates that the owner recognizes its worth. The rag regains its status as a garment and is susceptible to tuma. In other words, we are constantly analyzing the way you handle this rag. If you stored it somewhere in a specific way, many times it would show that it's important for you, and therefore it regains the status of a garment. And if it has the status of a garment, then it's susceptible to tumah. In the case of one who places the rag behind the door, Rabbi Akiva holds like Rabbi Yeshua that this act does not indicate an intention to reestablish the rag's status as a garment. Its insignificance is thus confirmed, and it remains insusceptible to tumah.
So if you look at it as a shmata, it's different than if you look at it as a beged, obviously.
Shmata would not be susceptible to tumah. Shmata means an insignificant garment,
right.
And garment is a garment. And we see from our Mishnah that Rabbi Akiva retracted his opinion in favor of that of Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Akiva disputes Rabbi Elazar's both. Rabbi Akiva disputes Rabbi Elazar both in the case of a rag placed behind the door and a rag hung upon a peg. Rabbi Elazar holds that both of these rags are susceptible to tumah, while Rabbi Akiva holds that both are not susceptible to tumah. I guess placing a garment behind the door or hanging it on a peg, it's not considered significant for you. It's not considered important, and therefore Rabbi Akiva would say definitely than Rabbi Elazar that this is not, that they're not a garment and therefore not susceptible to tumah. Now going back to a wick made of garment. Lighting candles of Shabbos. Can I use a wick that made out of a garment? What is the reason of the Mishnah? What is the reason the Mishnah teaches a wick made of a garment? Listen, let it rather teach a wick made from garment material. My psilos beged. What does it specifically say? A wick made of a garment. The adain beged, the ones that tell that it was still a garment. What you're using as a wick is still under the status of a garment. Is legally still a garment of sorts. A cloth that was hung upon a peg Since Rabbi Akiva nonetheless rules that it is not susceptible to Tumah, he apparently retracted his original ruling in favor of that of Rabbi Yehoshua. In note 13 is a summary of the opinions. In summarization, the Gemara presents two opinions to explain the dispute concerning Tumah, and two opinions to explain the dispute concerning lighting the Shabbos lamp. We have Tumah situation and we have Shabbos lamp situation. The dispute regarding lighting the Shabbos lamp, Ravada Barava holds that the dispute concerns using a wick made of a cloth, measuring precisely 3 by 3 finger breadth on Yom Tov that fell on Friday. At issue between the disputants is whether folding a cloth into a wick negates its status as a legal garment. Rabbi Elazar holds that folding the wick does not negate its status, and it therefore becomes noilod before the lighting is complete. Since one is therefore forbidden to complete the lighting, this wick cannot be used for the Shabbos lamp. Rabbi Akiva holds that folding the wick before Yom Tov does serve to negate its status as a garment. Since the wick consequently does not become noilod, one is permitted to complete the lighting. Rava and Rav Amnuna hold that the dispute in regard to whether one is permitted to use an uncharred wick for the Shabbos lamp, Rabbi Elazar hold that uncharred wick are forbidden, whereas Rabbi Akiva hold that they are permissible. Then we have the dispute regarding Tumah. Ravada Barava holds that the dispute concerns whether folding a cloth into a wick removes it from a status as a garment or not. Rabbi Elazar holds that folding does not negate the cloth status as a garment, consequently susceptible to Tumah. Rabbi Akiva holds that folding does negate the cloth status as a garment, therefore cannot become Tumah. Rav Amnuna holds the dispute concerning a wick made of a rag measuring between 3 by 3 finger breadth and 3 by 3 hand breadth that was removed from its garment status by designation for insignificant use, like example that we mentioned, to plug a hole or as a rag and the like, but was then placed behind the door or hung upon the peg. Rabbi Elazar holds that these actions indicate the owner recognizes the rag's worth. It is therefore regains its status as a garment to become susceptible to Tumah. Rabbi Akiva holds that these actions do not indicate recognitions of a rag's worth. It is therefore does not regain its status, but remains insusceptible to Tumah. Insusceptible. We're going to the Mishnah in 29b2. Extinguishing a fire is an av melacha, one of the primary labors. So it is a labor to extinguish a fire. Go ask the firemen. That's why they get paid, to extinguish a fire. And the Gemara in Beitza 22a discusses it. That even removing some oil from a burning lamp renders one liable for extinguishing. If you take away some of the oil, it's considered extinguishing. Instead of the candle burning for an hour, now it's going to burn for 40 minutes. So a person may not perforate an eggshell, empties it out, fill the shell with oil, and place it over the mouth of a lamp so that the oil drips into the cup. So try to imagine a eggshell, complete eggshell with a little hole, injected with oil, and then you placing this egg such a way that it keeps on dripping slowly and filling a container with a wick that is lit. So constantly feeding the fire. And place it over the mouth of a lamp so that the oil drips into the cup. And this is even if the reservoir was not egg, was rather it was an earthenware. Rabbi Yehuda says you're allowed to do it. Rabbi Yehuda permits this practice. However, if the potter attached the reservoir initially its use is permitted even by the rabbis, and because the lamp is the lamp and the reservoir is a single vessel. So the Mishnah discusses a similar case. A person may not fill a bowl with oil, place it beside a lamp, and put the unlit end of the wick into the bowl, so that it will draw the oil in the bowl to the other end of the wick. Rabbi Yehuda permits it. So let's see now, this Gemara will analyze all these cases of the Mishnah. So first of all, it's necessary to teach this law in each of these three cases. The case of egg, the case of earthenware. For if the Mishnah taught only the case of the eggshell, the actual reservoir, I would have thought that in this case alone the rabbi stated the stringent ruling. Since an eggshell is not repugnant container. Also, one might come to supply himself with oil from it. He'll take it and use it for other things. And by taking it, if it was designated for the candles, and now in the middle of Shabbos he takes the egg, pours some on his salad, and then puts this egg reservoir, the eggshell reservoir, again into the oil. But and by him taking some of the oil, he just distinguished the fire for the long run, even though the fire continues burning, but it's going to burn for less time. But it's not something that is it's not repugnant, and therefore he might use it. One might come to supply himself with oil. However, when it comes to earthenware reservoir, it's repugnant. Maybe they would agree with Rabbi Yehuda that he's allowed to do it. That it's permitted on Shabbos. And if we only taught the case of earthenware reservoir, which is repugnant, Rabbi Yehuda only says that, stated, I would have thought that in this case Rabbi Yehuda stated his lenient ruling. However, in the other case of eggshell reservoir, which is not repugnant, I would say that Rabbi Yehuda concedes to the rabbis that its use on the Shabbos is forbidden. And if the Mishnah had taught us only about these two cases discussed above, the case of the earthenware and the case of the eggshell, I would say, I would have thought in these cases alone Rabbi Yehuda stated his lenient ruling. Mishum because nothing intervenes between the reservoir and the lamp's cup. However, with regard to a bowl placed beside the lamp, where a space does intervene between the two vessels, I would say that Rabbi Yehuda conceded to the rabbis that this type of arrangement is rabbinically prohibited. And conversely, if the Mishnah had taught us only in that case of the bowl, where there is a space between reservoir and lamp, I would have thought that in that case alone, the rabbis stated the stringent ruling. However, in these two cases of the eggshell and the earthenware container, where reservoir and lamp appear as one vessel, I would say the rabbis concede, agree with Rabbi Yehuda that the use on the Shabbos is permitted. And it is therefore necessary for the Mishnah to teach the law in all three cases. However, if the potter attached the reservoir initially, its use is permitted. Even the rabbis, because then the lamp is a single vessel. If on Shabbos Eve the lamp's owner himself attached the reservoir with plaster or clay, its use is permitted. But we learned in the Mishnah that the reservoir must be attached by a professional potter. How then can the Baita sanction the handiwork of a layman? My yoitzer ken yoitzer. So it says when you use the word potter, yoitzer, that the layman's effort must be like the skilled work of potter. One time we spent the Shabbos in the upper chamber of Nitza, a name of a house in Lud, a name of a person, Beit Nitza, the house of Nitza in Lod, in the city called Lud. And they bought us an eggshell, and we filled it with oil, perforated, filled it with oil, and placed it over the mouth of the lamp. Tarfon and the elders were there. They saw exactly what we did, and they said nothing to us by way of objection. The rabbi said to Rabbi Uda, from there you offer a proof that the sages permit the use of improvised reservoir lamps on the Shabbos. Shani Beis Nitza Dezrizen in. It says Nitza household is different. Why? For the members of the house are zealous in their observance of mitzvahs, and they certainly require no safeguard to prevent them from removing oil from the reservoir. So that was a very unique case. So you shouldn't bring a proof from the house of Nitza, since he was such scrupulous, or the family was such scrupulous in their observance. So Ovin Tzipero Agos of Sol Beilisu the Shish. Ovin of Tzipero dragged a bench in a marble paved upper chamber on the Shabbos. Leilom Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar, in the presence of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar, Omar Lei, Ish tuki loch kedishtiku le chavra le Rabbi Yehuda. If I'm silent to you, as his colleagues were silent to Rabbi Yehuda, nofak menei churba, a destruction will ensue from the silence. Gezero ilso de shisho otu iliso de alma. For we must issue a decree prohibiting dragging a marble paved chamber on account of an ordinary unpaved chamber where dragging could create a furrow. So if you see you dragging, people wouldn't distinguish between dragging this type of a bench or dragging this type of a bench
on the floor.
And back then the floors did not have tiles or carpets.
We had marble,
or wood. So they would create a furrow in the ground. The synagogue overseer, the head of the synagogue of Batzra, dragged a bench on over an unpaved surface in the presence of Birmia Rabba. Amar Lei Keman, according to whom do you so act? Ki Rabbi Shimon. He said, I'm acting in accordance to Rabbi Shimon. Say Rabbi Shimon stated his ruling in the case of very large objects. The loyavsha, that's impossible to transport except by dragging. But Ktanim Yoma did he state his ruling in the case of relatively small objects such as a bench, which can be lifted and carried. He did not say that you're allowed to drag. So Pligad Ula Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba's interpretation conflicts with the understanding of Ula. The dispute between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda concerns relatively small object. Everyone agrees that if there's no other way, it's very heavy and big, and that's the only ways to drag it, that you're allowed to drag it, even though it might create a furrow. Rabbi Yosef retorted, Rabbi Shimon says, a person may drag a bed, chair, or bench across the ground on the Shabbos, but as long as he does not intend to create a furrow, to make a furrow. Rabbi Shimon teaches about large objects like beds, and teaches about small ones like a chair. This is difficult for both of them, Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba and Ula. Ula would explain the Baisa according to his opinion. Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabba Mitas Tame. Rabbi Yirmiyah would also explain it according to his opinion. Ula would explain the bait according to his opinion as follows. The bed mentioned by Rabbi Shimon is therefore similar to the chair. Just as the latter is a small object, so the former is a type of a bed that is small and portable. Rabbi Yirmiyah would explain the bait according to his opinion as follows. The chair mentioned by Rabbi Shimon is therefore similar to the bed. Just as the latter is large object, so the former is a type of chair that is heavy and bulky. Gemara persists in its challenge of Rabbi Rabba's opinion. Mosiv Rabba challenged this from a Mishnah, which states, on garment sellers may sell in their usual manner, so long as they do not intend in the summer to protect themselves from the sun, and in the rainy season, in the winter, to protect themselves from the rain and cold. And the discreet ones hang them on a stick behind them. So what happened over here in this case? Garment sellers in 40, it says garment sellers are allowed to wear their shatnez containing merchandise in order to model it for customers. For the Torah prohibits the wearing shatnez, Deuteronomy 22:11, only when the garment is worn for a usual purpose, to warm the body, maintain body heat, and it prohibits covering oneself with shatnez, Leviticus 19:19, only when the covering resembles a forbidden wearing, benefits the person. The garment seller, however, does not don shatnez apparel for his own enjoyment. So, the discreet ones hang those shatnez clothing on a stick behind them. Here, in the case of the Mishnah, it is possible for anyone to act like the discreet ones and avoid the shatnez prohibition altogether. The chiketanim dami, which is analogous to the opinion or to the option of carrying rather than dragging small object. And nevertheless, when the garment seller does not intend to derive any benefit, Rabbi Shimon allows him to wear the shatnez garment normally in the first place. From here we may derive that Rabbi Shimon would likewise allow one to drag a small object in the first place, so long as he does not intend to make a furrow. Tuvta de Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbo, then it is a refutation of Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbo, who said that Rabbi Shimon prohibits the dragging of small object, Tuvta, and the Gemara remains in a refutation, Tuvta. Next Mishnah, Mechaber Esaneir Mipnei Shu Misyon Pnei Anochim, one who extinguishes a lamp on the Shabbos because he is afraid of the Gentiles, he fears idolaters or bandits, Mipnei Listim, or because he's afraid of bandits, or because of the melancholia. It says in 46 that his mental anguish is soothed in the darkness. We cannot see things. Some people get more comforted when it's dark. Or he extinguishes the fire on Shabbos, the lamp on Shabbos, so that the sick person may fall asleep. Potu, in all these cases, is exempt. It says in 47, he is exempt from bringing a sin offering if the act was inadvertent, for there was no violation of Torah law. The Gemara will explain the reason behind this ruling. Rabbi Yossi Eimer, so kechosal ner, if he extinguishes the flame to spare the lamp, kechosal shemen, or to spare the oil, or to spare the wheat, kechosal psilo chayav, is liable to bring a chatas offering if he did it inadvertently. Rabbi Yossi pointed b'chulon, Rabbi Yossi exempt the perpetrator in all these things, in all these cases, chutz min psilo, except in the case of the wick, because when through extinguishing the flame, the perpetrator makes the wick into charcoal. Rabbi Yossi's case involves an unsinged wick, which was ignited expressly to singe it for future use. In such a case, the person extinguishing the flame performs melochat tzricha leguf, a labor needed for its defined purpose. This concept is outlined in detail 38. Rabbi Yossi's position is explained more fully by the Gemara below. So we'll end over here at 30a1. Bruchim Tiu, and I'll have another short video on the laws of Pesach.